level 1 upgrade. So this upgrade comes out of necessity. As you can tell, JoKer is sitting at a slant. And I'll show you what happened. The damage actually isn't that severe. In fact, it's a pretty common problem with the E.Revo. One of the rod ends stripped. In fact, the one for the shock did so. And you can tell that since that happened, it gave the A-arms a little bit more leeway to bend up and the driveshaft came undone. It's a pretty simple fix, but while I was looking around to see what I can do about it, I discovered something. So I had these lying around. A long time ago, someone donated these to me because I was going to build an E.Revo, but since I got a brand new one, I might as well go and slap these on there. As you can tell, these are the GTR shocks. Of course, they have the titanium nitrate coating on the shafts. Those ones do not. So these are definitely an upgrade, and since all the rod ends are intact, might as well go ahead and install them. So I might as well go ahead and start with the back. First of all, I have to go ahead and take off this chassis brace. It's held in with 7 screws. We have 1 in the back, 2 on the side, 2 near the front on the bottom, and then 2 on the top, which actually hold the shocks in. With those screws out of the way, I'm just going to go ahead and pull off the brace. There we go. And now I can go ahead and undo the bottom of the shocks. Each one's held in with a single screw attached to the rocker arm. With that taken care of, I'm just going to lift the RC up, and then I'm just going to go ahead and pull each shock out. And of course, that's the culprit right there. Because of this little thing, everything fell apart. But anyways, now I have the option to go ahead and choose which shock spring that I want to put in here. As you can see, the stock ones on there are, it looks like gray, I would say. And then I also have double yellow and then double red. And honestly, between these two, oh yeah, the double red is by far the strongest. However, the double yellow seems significantly stronger than just this gray stock one. As you can tell, I cannot easily... Yeah, big difference. So I'm going to go ahead and go with these on the back. So it's an easy installation. All I have to do is slide the shock spring in, then collapse the spring, and then slide in the bottom spring brace. There you go. Now I just have to reinstall it. Now before I do any more, I do have to take care of this drive shaft being out of position. So what I'm going to go ahead and do is I'm going to go ahead and detach the link that goes to the rocker arm by undoing this one screw. Now with the RC on its side, I'm just going to apply some pressure to the tire, bend it up, and push in the drive link. Now I can go ahead and reattach the link. Now I'm going to go ahead and get the shock, I'm going to get the base, line it up into the rocker, just like that, and reinstall the screw that holds it in. Once the bottoms have been taken care of, I need to go ahead and get the top of it and slide each one into the brace. Once the top has been taken care of, I'm going to go ahead and get the chassis brace, slide it back into position, make sure that this groove goes down into the back shock tower, make sure it's all the way down, and then reinstall the 7 screws that hold it in place. Alright, and everything's been taken care of. I also went ahead and put some stainless steel screws into these 2 holes. This is for another thing to be installed into, but since I don't have that part, these holes are just collecting dust. So these screws are here to prevent that. I do like riding this RC in the dirt and mud, and I just don't want to get dirt in there. So anyways, with these new shock springs installed, you can see that the ride height is actually a lot higher than it used to be. I'm okay with this. This RC has a lot of acceleration, especially on 6S, and when it takes off, all the weight leans back. Since these shock springs are stiffer, it is going to give me a bit more control, and since I like to jump this RC on top of that, yeah, this is just one of those modifications I'm happy with. Now it's time to go on to the front. And the front chassis brace is a little bit more complicated. So we have to flip the RC over and remove 4 screws. We have 2 on each side, 1 right here in this corner and towards the front, and the same for the other side. After that, we're moving to the top, and then we need to go ahead and remove these 2 screws. And now I can go ahead and wiggle out the chassis brace. And just like the back, I need to go ahead and remove the screw that holds the shock to the rocker. Once again, lift the RC up, and then I can just go ahead and pull out the shocks. So for the front shocks, they have the gold strip springs, and they're actually pretty soft. In fact, I can go ahead and collapse it all the way without really any issue. Next up, I can go ahead and use the gray shock springs from the back, and they are definitely a bit firmer. And then what I have left are the double reds, which, yeah, there is no way I'm going to be using that for the front. So what I'm going to go ahead and do is move to the gray ones. So just like before, I'm just going to get the new shock. I'm going to slide on the shock spring, put on the bottom brace. And since the shock springs in the back were meant, I think, for the Summit, and these ones for the E.Revo, they are shorter. So I am going to have to go ahead and bring down the adjusting ring. That way they have a lot more tension. Now I can go ahead and reinstall. So once again, I'm going to go ahead and get the shock, lift up the RC, put in the bottom to the rocker, and then slide the top into the shock spring brace, and then reinstall the bottom screw. So if you're having a lot of issues getting this pivot ball into the shock brace, there is a neat little trick. It's a very tight fit, but if you can get it into this position, get a small tool, and then pry the bottom of the pivot ball, you can straighten it out and it'll slide right in. So before I put on the chassis brace, I should go ahead and test out the ride height and how much I want the spring tension. Because with the chassis brace in the way, it's going to be a little bit harder to adjust the springs. But I think I finally got it to what I like. With that taken care of, I'm just going to go ahead and get the chassis brace, lay it back in there, and then reinstall these two screws. And then once again, with the RC flipped over, I need to go ahead and reinstall the 4 screws on the bottom. And I am finally done. Now this wasn't a significant upgrade. I mean, the stock shocks aren't all that much different than the big board GTRs, but still, the titanium nitride and the intact rod end was something that I just preferred with this RC. And now with the stiffer shock springs in the back, you can see it almost has a dragster look. Believe me, like I described earlier, this is exactly what I want with this RC, especially for how I like to drive it. Now this is only one of many upgrades that I can do for this RC. There are still plenty of options out there in aftermarket parts. So, if you haven't already, subscribe and let's see where this RC goes. That was JoKer's Level 1 upgrade.